How many times did we think we had an ingredient and we already started the meal like we're in the middle of it? And who wants to drop everything just to run to the grocery store for one item? This has happened to at least every one of us at least one time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Jan. Let's talk about it. Let's jump right into it. Going to mention to you some swap out ingredients that actually might surprise you. I know that we've heard of a few before, and they're worth going over as well. For example, like an obvious one, like let's say you're low on sweets, right? You don't have any sugar, but you could swap out other things for the sugar. For example, like honey or even maple syrup or some other sweet item that is not necessarily sugar, okay? Sugar per se. Now, for example, when we run out of eggs, for example, we can also use in our ingredients, let's say to bake a cake. And I'm sure many of you listening have already done that and can prove that it works. For example, you don't have eggs or you prefer not to use the eggs, you might use applesauce instead, or even in small quantities, some mashed bananas. Some people say that that could be very, very helpful in small amounts as well, working just like the applesauce does. All right. But did you know that, for example, let's say a recipe calls for white wine. And normally you don't keep white wine in the house, nor do you feel like purchasing white wine for your house, right? So what are you going to do? So instead of white wine, all you have to do is swap it out with chicken broth. Okay. That's an easy one. And if you don't have chicken broth, you can use chicken bouillon. And that's another thing that I do all the time because I don't want to spend extra money on chicken broth if I don't have to. So you see where I'm going with this? We could be creative and we could save money, time, effort, and energy at the same time as well. All right, for heavy cream, I might have mentioned it in the past. If you're making a recipe that needs heavy cream, you could swap it out by using milk and a little bit of melted butter in the milk. Because what you're basically doing is replacing the cream into the milk. So you see where I'm going with that? And it would work just as well in a recipe. I have done this many times when I would make quiche, for example. I don't oftentimes keep heavy cream around. I really don't have a reason to keep heavy cream around unless I'm using it for a specified recipe, which is far and few between. But if I do have it, that's great. If I don't, I will usually do the milk and melted butter swap out if I want to make a quiche. For me, it has worked. Everybody's different. Give it a whirl if you run out. Don't forget that you can do that, which is a great option. All right. So let's say that you thought you had a bunch of vinegar at home. Well, you're looking around the pantry and go, wait a minute. You never did get that vinegar that you meant to get at the grocery store. I know, I know. We should keep a running list, but we're not robots. We don't always remember. But it's a great idea to have the vinegar in the house. But what happens if there's a recipe that needs a little bit of vinegar? It might change everything about the recipe's outcome. In a case like that, then you could use some lemon or lime juice. It's the idea of that citric acid that makes such a difference in the recipe, like chemically speaking, just like has some sort of a chemical reaction. No vinegar, lemon or lime juice would work just as well. You know, some people like a little bit of capers once in a while, and a capers gives a little bit of a salty pop, a little bit of a salty bite in things. So if you run out of capers or you don't buy capers normally, you can use chopped up olives or even pickles as a swap out. It works. It does the same job. You get nice little pop of flavor, sometimes a little salty bite, and it's a great option. All right. Suppose you run out of Italian seasoning, like get the jar that says Italian seasoning on it. You thought you had it. Look around, keep looking. You don't find it. Like, oh, I thought I had it, blah, 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 blah. But no fretting. More than likely, you probably have a bunch of dried herbs or seasonings in a house. For example, like then work with the following. You could easily put together dried oregano and garlic powder, onion powder, put that together, and that gives you somewhat of an Italian seasoning feel. You could also add dried basil to that, oregano, basil, garlic powder, mix it together. You got yourself your own makeshift version of Italian seasoning. The only difference is you have to put it together and it's not put together because you ran out of that. Are there recipes that require milk and you completely ran out of milk? You don't even have the dry milk in the house, right? No milk, no shelf stable, zero milk. Like, no, 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 no. But you can substitute if you happen to have yogurt or sour cream for that a swap out milk ingredient. I'm just saying. And by the way, in case you want to save some calories and you love sour cream, but you could swap that out with yogurt. I have done that with some dips and stuff like that, and the plain yogurt is really good. By buying a plain yogurt, you could always doctor it up to whatever flavor you want. I've been known to make chocolate flavored yogurt from the plain by adding a little bit of cocoa powder and a little bit of sugar. And you can make vanilla yogurt, just add some vanilla drops to your plain yogurt. But if you have the plain yogurt, you could use it for dips, okay? So you could, flavor it and enhance it any way you want. So you're really getting more bang for your buck when you're stuck with, let's say, a sweetened flavored yogurt. Well, you're kind of sort of limited as to what you can do with that. So consider that, by the way. Just realize that. So if you run out of soy sauce, and who hasn't? How many times you thought you had soy sauce? Oh, you look around, you could swear you had it, thought you had some in the fridge or wherever, and it's not there. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm making my own homemade fried rice. I would like some soy sauce. I get it. I get it. But maybe you might have some Worcestershire sauce, and Worcestershire sauce would be a great substitute. And if you have neither, good old salt. Sometimes just a little bit of adobo, a little bit of salt, it would work just as well until the next time. Because I don't believe in having to just drop everything just to run to the grocery store for one item. That takes up too much time, effort, and energy. Does it even make logical sense? I personally, I don't know. I don't think so. All right. So as we continue on here, okay, let's talk about buttermilk. Now I know I mentioned in a previous video. I believe that either just aired or will air soon. Buttermilk is just not a fan favorite of this person behind the microphone. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, I want a glass of buttermilk to drink. Now, some people do. God bless them. God keep them. And if you enjoy it, really, I'm happy for you. I just, it's just one of those things in life I just can't seem to grasp onto as far as saying I would like to have a drink of buttermilk. However, buttermilk is a wonderful ingredient in many recipes. However, again, I don't feel like spending money on an ingredient I don't personally enjoy, nor neither do I use often. So in a case like mine, the swap out version of buttermilk in a recipe, and it works every time, just need two ingredients: regular milk, which hopefully you have on hand, and a little bit of vinegar. Let it sour. Let it sour. Voila. You got your makeshift buttermilk for that specific recipe that you're doing. It really does come in handy for those folks who are just like me, that perhaps, well, you're not going to put buttermilk on your list, or you just don't want to put it on your list to keep your grocery budget down. So if you're going to buy something you really love and really use, not just maybe, just because of a maybe I'll use buttermilk. I don't know, but that's me. And again, I say that's me. And for those that enjoy it, I say touche, yay, enjoy it. All right. What about breadcrumbs? You run out of breadcrumbs. We could get very creative with breadcrumbs. You could look around. Do you have any saltine crackers around? Crush them, voila, breadcrumbs instantly. Very quick, very easy. Crush up your crackers. Or even, don't believe it or not, you could pulverize your pretzels inside of a food processor and you got yourself some breadcrumbs. And you don't even need to add salt to those if they're the salted pretzels, okay? I'm just saying. Cornflakes work very well. By the way, I like cornflakes as a coating. Crushed cornflakes on chicken tastes absolutely delicious, and you could do a lot with that. So you see, we don't need to freak out if we run out of some stuff. Look around, you may be pleasantly surprised. I mean, I had an incident where my drain was stuffed and I was out of vinegar, because I know vinegar and baking soda helps unclog a drain, which it does, absolutely does. But I said, what product do I have at home that has vinegar in it already built in? Aha. And the light bulb went off. So in that case, I substituted mustard. I put mustard and the baking soda down my drain. I let it sit there for about 5 to 10 minutes. I turned on some warm water. I just let it run down a few minutes, not even a few minutes, 1 minute. And it cleared it immediately. Why? Because it contained the vinegar. So there are ways and there are ways. I certainly hope that these ways will have helped someone listening today.